Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to Under the Sun with Tony Iman. I am your host speaking. It is I. We are back, and I want to say we are better than ever, but well, relatively so. I am recovering from what has been a whirlwind of a month. You are also speaking to your host who is now 21. Woohoo! Realistically, I want to edit in some sort of applause in here, but I'm actually not going to have the energy to do so because I am really just taking everything in me to put this episode out in the name of consistency. So, yeah. But I think last episode was really focused on my birthday and all the things revolving around that. And I promise I will not spend this entire episode yapping all about my birthday that has now passed. But I did think it would be prudent to mention that, hey, I'm finally, you know, past the birthday. It was an amazing birthday. I honestly salute everybody who made my birthday super, super special. Everyone who sent me a message, everyone who gave me a gift, anyone who just remembered. Um, it's safe to say that I have people who know me very well and are very willing to go the distance for me and make me feel special. And I definitely did feel extra loved. It was to the point where it really did feel like a birthday week rather than a birthday because there was just so many things that were happening that week that made it extra special. I remember starting at work and having people like write me little notes telling me happy birthday, and the next day I came back home to the floods of messages and cards. I got flowers on a separate day. I received a cake and treats on a separate day. I went to the ballet, which was not really planned as a birthday thing, but it just ended up revolving a little bit around my birthday. But I no, honestly, such a great week. I am still receiving gifts till now. There are some gifts that have come a little later in the month that I'm still receiving. And that in itself is just so humbling to know that people went out of their way to spend money on me, to be so thoughtful, and just do everything in their power to make me feel appreciated. It is not lost on me. And I think it really had me thinking about my impact because some of those messages, gosh darn it, like they really had me thinking about what I am to people and what I do for people and how I can continue to love and help to the best of my ability. Some of those messages were extremely touching and just really encouraging of everything that I stand for and that I strive to do as a friend, as a daughter and cousin, goddaughter, god sister, etc., etc. All of my roles. So, yeah, safe to say it was a really amazing birthday. And I also have purchased drinks, finally able to just go out to an establishment and get a drink with my own card and just order. It was so exciting. I mean, in the moment, it didn't really like feel crazy. I ordered myself a glass of wine, but just being able to like go up to the bartender and go buy something for the first time, like it was amazing. The only other time I've been able to do that has been in a different country where their legal drinking age is 18. But being here and able to just do it, so fun. But there's quite a bit that I've been up to. Right off the bat, I am recovering, as I mentioned. I had food poisoning because I was traveling and trying foods and all that fun stuff. And I came back with a really, really bad bout of food poisoning. And plus, I had like all the cramps and all the things loaded on top of it. To be a woman is not for the weak. I'm very happy to be a woman, but sometimes I'm just like, wow, it is not for the weak. So I'm still recovering from that. And guys, honestly, when it comes to being sick, there's nothing better than being surrounded by very sympathetic people who are also able to love upon you and make sure that you're comfortable and just not smother you, but just be there for you. I don't know, all the times that I felt really, really terrible in my life, I can't imagine having to go through it all by myself or not just having people to rely on and be a support system and bring me food or make sure I'm eating and help me get stuff. Like I am entirely, entirely, entirely blessed. I think whenever I think of living alone, one of my biggest fears is what if I'm sick or what if something happens to me and nobody knows and nobody can come to my rescue? That is literally one of my biggest fears. So, yeah, so top tips while you're sick, I will say just sleep. Sleep. If you can't sleep, ask them to knock you out. No, I'm kidding. Um Seriously, I find that the only ways I'm able to actually just bear being sick and feeling just not myself is sleeping, because obviously when you're sleeping, you can't really feel much. At least you shouldn't be feeling much. I don't really dream while I sleep, so it's really very much like dreamless sleep, comatose, not like I'm a fairly light sleeper depending on where I am, but sleep is really is the way. It helps pass the time so much. I don't feel anything. So I was really just doing everything in my power to sleep. I was sleeping the whole day, sleeping the whole day away. And now I'm actually worried that my sleep schedule is absolutely done for, but what can I do? It is what it is. So, yeah, sleep, lots of fluids, eat bland food. I'm not a doctor, but this is what has nursed me back to health. So, yeah, for my 2 week recap, it's really just that birthday, traveling, food poisoning, and moving my body. While I was traveling, I was able to, go on some really nice walks and do a particularly challenging hit workout that literally had me nauseated. Like I was literally about to hurl my dinner from the night before. I remember I woke up at 6 a.m. and went with a group of friends to just hit this incredibly challenging workout. And I was proud of myself because I did it. I committed to something, but I also just went through a lot. I remember falling flat on my back and getting carpet burn and then not being able to complete some of the exercises because I was genuinely about to hurl. It was a time, but that's definitely some of the highlights of my past 2 weeks and just being able to make new friends. We're going to talk about a couple of things in this episode, more so my favorite things when traveling and some other things that I've just like learned and reflected on over the past 2 weeks. But it's really just the friends part of it. I met so many people over my trip. It was like a work thing, like a conference. And I've really think that I've mastered the art of small talk. Okay, maybe mastering is a bit of a stretch, but I do think I'm very, very good at small talk. I like to get to know people. I would rather engage in conversation with someone and listen to them and get to know who they are rather than just sit in silence. But I'm also just okay when it's like, okay, the conversation has come to a lull and we need to just take a breather and regroup and be on our phones for a bit. Like, that's fine. But over this trip, because I was meeting a whole bunch of new people, small talk was very essential. You also want to be imaginative and really be creative about what you talk about. Like small talk, you can go over a host of different topics from the weather to hobbies to what have you been up to. And some people have a very unique ability to make every conversation deep. I'm not one of those people. I can be very surface level. I can just sit in that whole comfortable exchange of very inconsequential information and still feel like I found meaningful connection with people. And I honestly feel like you tend to know a lot about a person through their small talk and through small talk and through understanding just the ordinary about them. Sometimes I think that we bond quickly. I feel like it is possible. Sometimes I feel like it is possible to bond too quickly or trauma bond with a person when you go in so deep all of a sudden. But like if you're prompted to continue to talk to someone and just get deeper and peel back those layers, that's a great thing. But I also do think that for the sake of networking and just making connections really quickly, it's important to know how to do small talk. So, a couple of things that I will say is genuinely just be yourself and don't be afraid to just like bring up anything relevant to the current situation. So, for example, I was talking to someone about college and, what they were up to. And we ended up talking about our classes and our professors. And then we started talking about the people that we knew and we found out that we had mutuals. And then we started talking about hobbies. Like it was just such a free flowing conversation. And obviously, small talk is always better when you have someone who's a real conversationalist and are able to, you know, counter whatever it is you're saying. So it's kind of like a game where you're like serving them a ball and they're able to lob it back at you at the perfect angle. Like it is definitely an art and it is very, very kind of boring and almost like you're pulling teeth when you're talking to someone who isn't good at it. But if you are, I would say definitely lean into that because that is what's going to set up the foundation for even deeper conversations. And it also allows you to really come back into that person's space and pick up where you left off because you weren't talking about something super, super deep and anchoring that you can't just like refer back to or anchor back to. And I also find that it's really low pressure because, God forbid, you don't like what you find out on the surface level. You don't necessarily have to talk to this person again, and you haven't disclosed any information that you don't want them knowing or you don't want the whole world knowing because it's never that deep, anyways. So, yeah, that's what I learned. If you're somebody who is working in any sort of capacity where you need to network, I will say try to dedicate some time to mastering the art of small talk. Apart from that, though, again, travel. One of my favorite things about traveling is definitely trying new foods. I was able to try some real authentic Texas brisket. It was phenomenal. I did this thing where like someone told me to like put jam on it. And I know it sounds really, really weird. And I honestly, I can't even remember the type of jam I put. It was probably some sort of berry jam. It was so good, so tender. Like literally, my knife would just nudge the meat and it will fall off. Like it literally would just part. And I had it like sliced and not just like chopped up and shredded. I literally just had the meat sliced right off the bone. Incredible. I had it with some shrimp, chips, and mac and cheese. It was perfect. And I'm not even like a big mac and cheese person. I typically like steak, so it was like, okay, we're having brisket, whatever. I like meat, but it was just so flavorful and tender and you could honestly just tell the thought that had been put into it. And I was very excited because I was just been listening to an episode of I Said What I Said and they were talking about how I think it was Faye Kemi that was talking about or FK. FK was talking about how she really, really wanted to try brisket and she had like ordered some brisket somewhere in Lagos and she was just like, I don't know when I would get the opportunity to try Texas brisket. And I kid you not, I was in Texas and I was like, I have to try Texas brisket on behalf of FK. It's very, very parasocial relationship with me. But I don't know, I couldn't help thinking of that particular episode when I was trying it. And all I can say is I understand why she is a little bit obsessed and has been wanting to try it because it is phenomenal. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please feel free after you listen to this episode to search up I Said What I Said by FK Angela. It's the Carousel Network. It's an amazing podcast hosted by two wonderful girl boss Nigerian women who are taking the world by storm and are unapologetically shedding light on a lot of topics that are so relevant for Nigerians, but also the African diaspora. So if you want to check it out, I'll probably recommend it somewhere in my recommended shows for Spotify. But again, this is very unsponsored. I just love those ladies and their shows so much. It is called I Said What I Said. But yeah, other than food, I think another thing that I really, really like to experiment with is my outfits when I'm traveling. I try to find my airport style. The goal is always like functional yet stylish and being able to just like go to the different what's it called? I go through airports and try different outfits, different vibes. It's always such a fun time. I had two different flight experiences. So one of my flights, I was literally sitting in the aisle near the bathroom. Safe to say, if I can avoid that at all costs, I will. I've been in the middle seat before and I've had a window seat. I've actually never flown with an aisle seat until this time around and I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I'm not one of those people who has to go to the bathroom every 5 seconds. So I literally was just there because that was like one of the only seats available other than the middle seat when I booked my flight. But it was such a huge mistake, guys, because tell me why. Every single time somebody needed to go to the bathroom, and there were a lot of people who were going to the bathroom, I would be hit in the shoulder by their hips. I'm like, God forbid a girl is trying to take a nap and I had my arms like inside of my seat, like I had it in like contained. I'm like kind of modeling how I was sitting. And but every single time I would try to take a nap, and just as I am getting to the precipice of my sleep, someone would just walk past and then boom, just nudge my shoulder, and next thing you know, I'm up. So it wasn't the most enjoyable, what's it called? It wasn't the most enjoyable ride. And then, of course, the very lovely smells that, not scent, smells that I was just kind of being wafted with every now and then when multiple people would use the bathroom. And I was just like, oh my God, I cannot stomach this. But thankfully, on the way back, I was by the window seat. And this was so clutch for so many reasons. First of all, I literally just had to throw up on the plane because by then I already got food poisoning and I was unaware. I just know I didn't feel good and I wasn't able to eat all day. And I was just like, why do I feel so bad? Turns out, food poisoning, my stomach was raging. And thankfully, no one was sitting in the middle seat beside me because I low key think I could have thrown up on them. I was thankfully saved by not having to sit directly next to someone. And I was by the window. So I could really just have the, what's it called, that corner to breathe and throw up and do all the other things. And I'm sorry if this is grossing you out, but I'm just being real here. I had a time. And then afterwards, when I had cleaned myself up and like, cleaned my mouth and all those fun stuff, I literally just sat there looking outside of the window for like 15 minutes straight. Just like looking outside and trying to just compute what had just happened to me. But it was an amazing distraction. And another thing that I'm really, really fascinated by while I travel is just how the planes and again, if I haven't said this, traveling by plane, I think I should have mentioned this, but this list of things that I'm mentioning are really just about what I like about traveling by plane. But anyways, I'm very, very interested in how planes work. And honestly, I feel like I should just obviously read a book on this or read some sort of literature regarding this, but I'm very interested in how planes work, the engineering behind it, all the aerodynamic stuff. Usually, I actually like to watch takeoff and landing. I'm very, very fascinated. I don't get scared when we're taking off or landing. I think the only time I really get scared on a flight is if there's like bad turbulence in the air and like we're like midair and there's just like bad turbulence. I start to get a little like, oh my God, what's happening? Are we being shot out of the sky? God forbid. But on takeoff and landing, it's so cool to witness. Like you're literally levitating off the ground and then moving. Whatever. Y'all know how planes work. Sort of. But I'm very interested to understand the mechanics on that. So that's another topic that I feel like I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive in and just like get some knowledge just because I think it's so fascinating. I think pilots are so cool. And I'm just very grateful for Journey Mercies, for God taking me to and fro safely and just making sure that I was okay, especially when I really wasn't feeling well on that flight. I think if anything else had happened to me, I probably wouldn't have been able to take it because I was already feeling so terrible on that flight. But it's all in the past now. This is the first full day that I'm feeling a lot like myself and getting back into my groove. So, yeah, we're just really going to take this road of rest and recovery seriously. My show of choice was Avatar: The Last Airbender. I kid you not, I binge watched like all of season 3 over like 2 days of me just rotting in bed, and in between me sleeping and waking up, not really being able to eat. It was just me watching Avatar the entire time. So yeah, and I was watching like the original show, like the animated show, not the live action. I've watched that one too, but I always find myself coming back to the original animated show. It's kind of like my comfort show, one of them. I really just had to focus on my rest and recovery, and having a good show, pro tip, is a really good way to pass the time and to distract yourself from whatever pain, if any, that you are in. In the meantime, I would also encourage you to check out my Substack if you haven't already. It is called Under the Sun Essays. It'll be linked in the bio. There is a new episode out on Substack because this episode would be coming out, and you can also listen to my episodes on Substack. But there's also going to be a new essay out, kind of connected to this episode, but not really because I'm honestly just plugging it in there. Under the Sun Essays, again, is just a way for me to extend some of the conversations and topics that I have on this podcast in written format. It's a really good way for me to continue to express myself creatively and have a deeper dive into some of the topics that I may have just skimmed over here in the podcast. And something that I've been realizing a lot since traveling and interacting with young professionals and things of that sort is just the idea of having everything all at once. That's literally the name of my piece. It's called Everything All at Once. And it really dives into that feeling of wanting to do everything, wanting to have everything, feeling like you have to just be on go mode all the time in order to be successful. A lot of the young people I see around me are chasing something, are incredibly ambitious, and are just working towards something all the time. At least it seems that way. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all, but I think that when you are surrounded by so many people that are striving towards something bigger than themselves and are not really taking the time to be incredibly thoughtful about what ambition and success means for them, it becomes very performative in the sense that we lose ourselves in the sauce. And even on social media, like it's constantly amplified that whole hacks for productivity and just wanting to be the person to get on the next wave and to be the next wave and to be an early adopter and all of these things. It's just very easy to get caught up and feel like you're falling behind if you're not leading something, starting something, applying to something. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever felt that feeling, but I definitely have felt a couple of weeks after graduation, especially like I wasn't doing enough. And I mentioned it on the podcast, and I haven't been able to capture the feeling fully, but I definitely think that the essay talks about what is actually part of my problem specifically. Ambition for me is really striving to achieve the best in whatever that you're doing and being excellent, but also success is the consistency that comes with it. Are you being able to show up for yourself in all the ways that lead you to actually achieving whatever version of success that you're doing consistently? That is like the baseline. And I think that's what keeps somebody ambitious, and that's what makes them show up as an ambitious person, is when you're able to be, again, as consistent as possible. We all need to realize that there's a time for everything. There are seasons, and you have seasons where people are in their season of grinding, and comparison really is a thief of joy. If you have not decided what your ambitions are, if you haven't decided what success looks like for you, you will drive yourself crazy trying to match up to everybody else's version of success and trying to align your journey with theirs. Because at the end of the day, they're living their lives and you have to figure out how to live your life for you as well, not just like copying what somebody else is doing or hoping that if you follow their path exactly, it'll lead you exactly where they are. Because we're all unique and different strokes for different folks. Again, make sure that you check out the essay and leave your comments below. I really hope you enjoy listening to this episode. I really hope that you enjoy reading the essay. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow the podcast on all the platforms. You can find me at I am Tony Iman on Instagram. Make sure to leave a review if you haven't already. Rate the podcast. Nothing less than 4 stars. 5 stars is preferable, but we'll take 4 because we're not perfect. And I look forward to speaking to you soon in the next week. Okay, thank you again for listening and bye.